You're listening to the Packernet Podcast Network.
You ever hear of test driving a phone network? Well, US Cellular is letting you test drive their nationwide 5G for free. Try out US Cellular wherever you have spotty service, your commute to work, that one spot in your house where your service dips. It's as easy as doing a little beep boop pop boop pop with your phone. That's the buttons, that's the noise they make. Anyways, test drive US Cellular's nationwide 5G coverage for free for 30 days. Just download the Try Us app. US Cellular, built for us. Terms apply. Visit uscellular.com/try us.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. Join alongside Jacob the Beard up in Wisconsin, here to talk some Packers. A little 4th of July edition. Obviously, first things first, happy birthday, America. Obviously, celebrating our independence. Cool fact. I like to kind of celebrate it on July 2nd because that's really when the Declaration was kind of, I don't want to say finalized, but the final draft essentially was created. They had to go back and button a couple things up. I know that we have a famous quote that where John Adams gives everybody specific instructions on how to celebrate. He actually gave that quote on July 2nd. Everybody's like, oh, slow down a minute. We ain't done yet. So what's up, Jacob? What are you going to say, bro?
No, I was just going to say that's a fun fact that I was going to bring up. So you stole my thunder. Thanks a lot, Clayton. I know you're a history buff. But yeah, he was waiting on a few signers to actually authenticate it, right? So, and then I don't know if you remember that quote, but basically people I'm one of them that, I don't like fireworks anymore. I used to love them when I was a kid, but now I'm just like annoyed. I'm grumpy old Clint Eastwood. Get off my lawn and, quit doing any kind of fireworking. But he actually said it was, and like the thing he goes, it should be celebrated with cannons and explosions and like drinking. And so they literally put it in there. He goes, this should be a day that is to be celebrated. I know a lot of constitutionalist friends of mine and scholars and people that I follow actually let themselves go hog wild on this day. So you know what? It is a day. And some people say like on Veterans Day or Memorial Day, like don't be out grilling just to be grilling. Like you got to remember what it's for. Right. On America Day, July 2nd/July 4th. Yeah, let's go out and get you know what, because guess what? We're celebrating a mad victory, son. Absolutely. How's it going, England?
It's gonna be a little bit blurry. Best I could do.
Perfect. No, you're good.
This is it. It says the 2nd day of July. This is John Adams, by the way, the very first vice president, and then of course our second president of the United States. It says the 2nd day of July, 1776, will be the most memorable epocha in the history of America. I am apt to believe that it will be celebrated by succeeding generations as the great anniversary festival. It ought to be commemorated as the day of deliverance by solemn acts of devotion to God Almighty. Oh, he said God. Oh, no. It ought to be a solemn, what is that? Solemn, what's that?
Solemnized.
Solemnized.
Yep.
With pomp and parade, with shoes, games, sports, guns. Huh? A what? Guns? Bells, bonfires, and illuminations from one end of this continent to the other, from this time forward forevermore. And John Adams, if you guys have not studied on John Adams, he's arguably my favorite founding father. Someone who goes very underappreciated. He's someone who battled the current day political system we have. And again, the reason being is because he could kind of see, I don't want to dog too many, I don't want to put too much dirt on Thomas Jefferson, but he and John Adams were pretty big political rivals, and Thomas Jefferson was kind of, how do I say this properly? It's kind of the father of our current political system. He's the first one to start playing dirty, if you will, in politics. So some people refer to him as the father of the two-party system. But Badger Trio said, chilling fact, John Adams and Jefferson passed away on the 4th, hours apart, 50 years after independence. Another crazy thing, too, if I remember correctly, they were very far apart. They hadn't got word that one or the other had passed, and Thomas Jefferson had passed. And then on his deathbed, John Adams actually looked up like toward the ceiling and said, Jefferson survives, almost as if he's seen Jeffrey. It was just pretty wild that it happened on the same day. But they were close friends, became political enemies, and then obviously just that's the beautiful thing of politics, So again, though, go out and celebrate it. Be safe, have fun, all that. We're going to talk Packers. We're going to do it right now because I got to be off here in 40 minutes. My wife is going to kill me because we've got some festivities set up here. But just it's worth hitting on that for sure because I think these are many things that people just kind of brush under the rug and don't talk about it. I know there's some people hearing my voice that are afraid to talk about it because of our political climate and because of just current society. It's like, when the hell did the American flag become a bad thing? It blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. But anyway, I digress. So let's talk some Packers. Jacob, I've been kind of jumping into some Jordan Love talk. All right. And I've been hearing a lot of chatter around Jordan Love. You correct me if I'm wrong. I want to get kind of put my finger on the pulse here and see what you've been hearing. It sounds like a large majority are very high on Jordan Love that I'm hearing. Are you hearing something different? Is that kind of how you're seeing it too? It sounds like everybody's expecting him to just be a stud this year. Is that how you're seeing it?
I mean, yeah, dude. It's everything from the pundits that you don't ever put, much stock in, and I'm not going to hate all of them, but like kind of your call them clickbait type guys, your Colin Cowherds, all that. The guys that basically, and that's a good point, is to look back at this year or at this time a year ago. Colin Cowherd, what did he say? Jordan Love has no wild throws. There's nothing that's intriguing, like blah 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 blah. And now all of a sudden, flip the script to what has actually happened after you get a year under his belt. All of a sudden, he's a top 5 quarterback. He's a top 10. Maybe he's even top 3s. You have people saying, they want to pick him as the dynasty quarterback going forward.
Right.
All that stuff being said, man, I think that it's one of those things where it's like, what have you done for me lately? That's the NFL, obviously. But I just think that that really does kind of make me mad, though, that we can just sit here and I don't watch the mainstream, whether it's media for sports, politics, or weather, for that sake. Like, they seem so confident in the stuff they tell you one day, and then the next day you come back, like literally the next day, and they're like, well, here's why and you're like, what? Where did you guys have time to even write new stories? You guys just scrubbed everything you just said about the dude or the weather or the whatever it is. You can insert that criteria into that conversation. So I just think that this year the proof is going to be in the pudding, and we can all see what's before our eyes. They can't convince you. What's that, Judge Judy? What does she say? You can't pee on my foot and tell me it's raining.
Yeah, don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining.
That's right.
That's right. Some people, I think many people should live by that, to be honest with you. It's like in today's society for sure. Let's see. Fred McFarley in the chat said Tim and Emilio blasting off their fingers. No doubt about it. Let's see here. Which, by the way, I just love Emilio to death. He sent us all a picture this morning. I don't know if you've seen it, Jacob, but of his work truck. Had the flags just hanging out of the back of that thing. He's another dude. He wears the Santa hat when he's out there mowing in November down here in Tennessee as the season's wrapping up. So.
Well, I'm just saying he's just trying not to get deported. So.
Is that what it is? Feliz Navidad, right? That type of thing. So Badger Trio say camp's 2 weeks away. Should we expect contract news any day? ... I kind of look at it like Kenny Clark's last contract. I want to say they did it when camp broke or as camp got kicked off. I kind of feel like it's going to happen during training camp, right? So it could, like you said, we're 13 days away from rookies reporting. So once everybody gets in the building, that's right around 2 weeks. Yeah. So I could see it, Badger Trio. Now, how close are they? Reports are very, very minimal right now as far as people talking about it because everybody's out of the building and all that. Everybody isn't out of the building, but the media doesn't have any kind of availability, so there's no questions being asked, obviously. So, I think it gets done. It's just, I don't know, man. I want the Packers to have the lowest cap hit possible for Jordan Love. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, it's like that dude, he took a very team-friendly deal last year when he didn't have to and kind of gave them you guys, if you go back and watch the show, I was very vocal. I said this was Jordan Love doing the Packers a favor is what this was. And I'd like to see it reciprocated to a certain extent. Now, who knows? Mulugeta, his agent, might be asking for $65 million per. If that's the case, that's crazy, right? But if he is asking, hey, look, man, put us somewhere in the in the ballpark of the top 5 average, and the Packers don't want to budge on that. That does bug me a little bit. But again, I don't want to get off on a tangent about contracts, but you're right, we should get news pretty soon.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna probably add a little fuel to that fire. Did you see what I sent you today, Clayton? About apparently Dak Prescott is walking around in a walking boot in like someplace in Mexico.
Yeah.
So not to say that would have, I shouldn't say it's a direct connection with what Jordan Love's contract is going to look like, but it was a correlation because they were saying, hey, Dak's going to get, once Dak gets the bag, once I can't remember how many other quarterbacks at the time were up for the next big payday, but it's like, if Dak is maybe, or Jerry Jones is looking at Dak being like, dude, you're not even ready to go maybe for the opening of the season. I'm not going to give you a 60+ million deal if we don't even know if you can walk out of that boot. So in a way, I think that indirectly helps Jordan Love, at least. Well, I don't know if it helps Jordan Love or if it helps the Green Bay Packers organization kind of making that deal where it's like, we haven't broken the cap yet, So I still hope that they get it done well before training camp. I would love it if they announce it tonight. I'd make my 4th of July. I'd go outside, start shooting guns off, get the neighbors calling the cops on me.
I completely agree. So please don't take it the wrong way. And I probably did a piss poor job of explaining my stance there. I want it to get done today too. It's just I'm not. The closer we get to the end of camp, that's when I'm going to start becoming concerned, because it's going to be a realistic possibility that Jordan Love has to play without a contract, and that just bugs me, So I think they'll get it done, though. That's why I'm holding out hope for sure. Let's see here. Dave in the chat says, just finishing grilling, and then I have to light off enough boom booms that could supply a small festival. LOL. There you go, buddy. You just stay safe out there, man. Stay safe. And Jacob, when you were talking about Dak, I don't know if you see my response to that text message. I put #hold in. And what I meant by that is that a hold in? Is that him going, hey, okay, you don't want to give me the contract? Oh, my ankle hurts. And that really happens. That happens across the league. Now, some would say that's faking the injury, that's lying. I guess it technically is. But maybe his ankle does have just a little 3% ache in it. You know what I mean? So it's just that's another way that they kind of avoid that new CBA agreement where they can't hold out, or that you can, but you can't get recouped that money. But if you're holding in, obviously you're not missing out on any money. So anyway, so it's hilarious, man. I didn't plan on hitting on the contract, but I'm glad we did, because it's something that's on everyone's mind for sure. Let's see what else we got in the chat here. Mick Knight says, will Love's long passes connect more often within stride of his receivers this season? Is that one of Love's development? It's funny you say that, because I remember Aaron Rodgers saying many times in the past, there was one specific offseason that he said, he asked Tom Brady, hey, any tips, any advice, which I think that's absolutely awesome. Everybody pretends like Aaron is this just egotistical maniac he thinks he's God's gift to the game of football. And that is, in my opinion, not the case. But he asked Tom Brady what, a tip. He said, I picked 2 things every offseason to work on. And that offseason, I remember he said that the 2 things he picked was, I think it was footwork, but it was the footwork within the play action pass drop, his footwork. And it was literally the first drive of that season. I remember he ran a play action pass. I think he said it was a play action pass and nose down seam throws. And it was the first drive of the season. Sure enough, play action drop and hammered the seam for a touchdown. I was like, that's the 2 things he specifically said he picked out to work on, because Tom Brady had suggested, hey, pick 2 things out to work on. So kind of cool. When you see that stuff kind of, get put into play, put into effect, if you will. So let's see what else we got. I see you got all kinds of them marked here. Good stuff, Jacob. Says Badger Trio says, I expect to be a typical Packers deal, some upfront and backloaded. I think it will be very balanced. If you think Jordan Love's the guy, if you 110% know Jordan Love's the guy, and I don't think anybody feels anyone in the league 110% is, then you give them that Pat Mahomes type deal, right? The Packers have just never done that. So it would be just ignorant for me to sit here and say, forget all precedent involved and let's go sign a 10-year deal, right? So I think it will probably be somewhere between 3 to 5 years and very balanced, like you said. front and back loaded, have it to where they could get out of it in a couple of years if they needed to with, I don't want to say minimal damage, but it wouldn't completely sink the ship, but also provide enough security for Jordan to make him happy. Mick Knight in the chat said, we'll love, okay, we already hit that one. Let me unmark that. Fred McFarley says, Pack signed Rodgers to a top 5 quarterback contract with less of a resume than Love. I want to say it was like, and I could be wrong, I don't know why, but the number is like 6, maybe 7 games is what's sticking in my mind.
That's what I thought too. Yeah.
So those people, they go, oh, we need to see more of it. It's like, and it's always the same people that never have anything negative to say about Brian Gutekunst. I love Goody. I think Goody's a great GM. I think he's done an excellent job. I believe that. I can't think of another GM right off the top of my head that I go, I would rather have him than Goody. I really don't. But it doesn't mean he doesn't make mistakes. And I hope, pray to sweet baby Jesus here on the 4th of July. It doesn't get more American than that, does it? That he that he kind of takes a step back and goes, all right, let's get this done. Let's don't upset the cart. Let's don't, because there's a lot of young players that absolutely, the whole team loves Jordan. And, if they try to play hardball with Jordan, the message you're sending to the locker room is we don't give a crap what you do on the field. It's, hey, we've got the leverage. Sorry. That's just not a good place to be as a businessman. It really isn't. It really isn't. So I agree with that. Dave in the chat said Dak was in the walking boot due to him being on the fishing boat. The constant back and forth waves still mess with his ankle after his injury. He had a slight sprain. He's out of it already. So, we'll see.
I would just ask Dave where you heard that, because the first clips I saw of Dak was this morning with him on that boat. So if you got some confirmation that it was just a kind of
I love it, dude. We're over here now. We got to look at the timeline.
I'm just saying, like, I he's probably right. I just want to say, because the first thing I saw with the media reporting it was this morning, so I just would be interested to see who made a statement and cleared that up. So,
and there has never been more fake sports media on Twitter. Oh yeah. I mean, it's just wild.
Oh, it's tough, man. I share some stuff every now and then, and Clayton will send me a text, and he's like, "Hey, Jacob, check that tweet. Just see who sent that." I'm like,
and if you're wondering how did Clayton know, because Clayton's got several times. We've all been there for sure. So now I'm over here sounding like Greg Joseph talking in third person. We better stop that. So it's kind of weird. All right, let's jump into
grill today. Tell you what.
Let's jump into the Jordan Love stuff here, man. So what I'm going to do is share SIS here. It's probably going to be kind of hard for you to see, Jacob, if I can zoom in, but I got to scroll back and forth. So I will definitely read off what we're talking about here. And we want to do as good a job as we can explaining to everyone on the podcast exactly what we're looking at. So what I wanted to do is go
real quick. And Dave came right back. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it. A source of the Cowboys and Todd Archer confirmed he is already out of the boot. So again, guys in the chat, thank you so much. You guys are awesome.
Yeah, I love it, dude. I learned more from the chat, us doing a live show, than me trying to comb through and get the information myself. It's awesome. So what I'm looking at here, and again, I apologize if the font's too small. I can zoom in, but when I zoom in, it takes stuff off the screen and it kind of makes things wonky. We'll see if we can do it just once here. If it messes it up, we're going to go right back. Yeah, see, it's going to take some of the statistics off. So I'll just read to you what it is we're looking at here. If I can get it just right. Okay. So what I wanted to do was go, okay, what would justify Jordan getting that big contract? And to me, it would be him. I can go full screen here. It would be him getting kind of being qualified as a top 10 quarterback. You know what I mean, Jacob? Like, I'm okay with him getting top quarterback money as long as he finishes in the top 10. Well, what would that look like? So what I wanted to do is just kind of go through and sort each stat column. This is SIS from the 2023 season, and just see which quarterbacks led in what category, right? And let's start with completions. So when it comes to completions, Dak Prescott, led the league in completions with 410, right? Jordan Love finished 8th. So if you go down to the player that's in 10th, let's just do them in order just to kind of give everybody an idea of where these quarterbacks finish. So in completions, total completions, Dak Prescott in this order: Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, Patrick Mahomes, Tua Tagovailoa, Sam Howell. That's wild with Sam Howell, by the way. I think he's going to do good. He's finally out of Washington. Josh Allen with the Bills, Derek Carr with the Saints, then Jordan Love with the Packers, Trevor Lawrence with the Jaguars, and Baker Mayfield with the Bucs. So Baker Mayfield falls into that 10 spot. So what we're doing is gathering the numbers for that number 10 spot, and then we're going to come up with a complete resume of, okay, as long as Jordan finishes above these numbers or at it, he would be worthy of a top 10 quarterback contract. Does that make sense, Jacob? That's kind of the whole purpose of tonight. So when it comes to attempts, obviously that's not a stat we're too concerned about, but it is worth mentioning. The 10th most attempts by a quarterback in 2023 was Derek Carr at 548. Okay. Jordan Love finished 6th there at 579. All right. So let's go on to now completion percentage. Actually, it's let's see here. Where's completion? So it's not on this one. We'll go to the rates here in a second. Let's jump ahead to touchdown passes. All right. So when you go to touchdown passes, here's the order in which the quarterbacks finished with touchdown passes. Okay. Dak Prescott, 36, Jordan Love, 32, Brock Purdy, 31, Jared Goff, 30, Josh Allen, 29, Tua Tagovailoa, 29.
Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. You know, my son started collecting football cards. I had no idea what the heck I was doing, so I went out and bought him one of those binders you put all the cards in and all that kind of stuff. Turns out, card collecting has come a long way since when I was a kid, and that's what people did. Now, there is a new way to buy, sell, and trade cards. It's called Arena Club. Whether you're buying, selling, trading, or displaying, Arena Club is the all-in-one trading card platform that you have to sign up for. Over at arenaclub.com/packdaddy. We actually did a whole YouTube video about this. I would encourage you to check it out. It is a fantastic website. You can, as I said, you can buy, trade, sell, but also you can display all of your cards right there on the platform. It gives you all of the grading. They'll even grade your cards. Their grading combines AI as well as human grading to get the most accurate grading of all your cards. And right now, you can get 10% off your first purchase by going to arenaclub.com/packdaddy. That's arenaclub.com/packdaddy for 10% off your first purchase. You ever hear of test driving a phone network? Well, US Cellular is letting you test drive their nationwide 5G for free. Try out US Cellular wherever you have spotty service. Your commute to work, that one spot in your house where your service dips. It's as easy as doing a little beep boop pop boop pop with your phone. That's the buttons. That's the noise they make. Anyways, test drive US Cellular's nationwide 5G coverage for free for 30 days. Just download the Try Us app. US Cellular, built for us. Terms apply. Visit uscellular.com/tryus.
You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Libsyn Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Libsyn Ads. Go to libsynads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com.
Baker Mayfield, 28. Patrick Mahomes, 27, with 14 interceptions, by the way. It's just people pretend like Patrick Mahomes was just, oh, it's Patrick Mahomes winning another Super Bowl. He's great. That defense is a reason they won the Super Bowl last year. There's no two ways about it. Yep. Next is Russell Wilson, believe it or not, with 26 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. And then Derek Carr with 25 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. So those were your top 10 in touchdown passes. And again, in the 10th spot would be 25 touchdown passes. And again, that was Derek Carr. Now, when we move to interceptions, we're going to go fewest. By the way, the minimum attempts is 300 pass attempts. Okay, that's what we set this whole.
Can you just real quick click back to the touchdowns? Just sorry to
go ahead.
You off here. It to me is, I think that people need to really look at that top 10 list and look at how the quarterbacks can kind of, depending on how the team plays, you kind of judge a quarterback. But dude, Russell Wilson didn't have a horrible year, to the point like people thought his career's done. He had nearly 3,000 yards passing, almost 26 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. You compare that to guys like, again, look right above him, Pat Mahomes had like 600 yards more, 1 touchdown less, and 6 more interceptions. I mean, and like you talked about, the only reason that Patrick Mahomes has some glittering gold around his name is because they win. Russell Wilson got shipped off to another team where he's competing with the likes of Justin Fields now. I think that people need to really put a little more respect on his name again when he gets into that Pittsburgh system. And a guy like Derek Carr playing from behind all the time and probably playing with some injuries, but it just is interesting. He's above Lamar Jackson, above Matthew Stafford, above CJ Stroud in that certain metric. It's just like, you got to take stats with a grain of salt and really look at it from like a 30,000 foot view, you know?
And that's why on this show, we try to do, and listen, we're the farthest thing from perfect. You can hear in the accent of my voice here, but we try to look at the statistics. We try to look at the PFF grades. We try to look at the SIS data as far as their point system. We look at the 33rd team's opinion. We try to take everything, throw it into one big bowl, mix it up and go, okay, overall, here's how we see the league. We'll also interject a little bit of our opinion when we watch the tape. Obviously, when we do chalk talk, things like that, the what happened and why did it happen approach. So, and I'm completely with you here, Jacob. Like, stats are not everything. I'm just trying to put a stat line together to go, okay, if he finishes at this level or better, that's worthy of a top 10 contract type thing. So,
Yep.
When we go interceptions now, again, minimum 300 pass attempts. And we obviously sort the least amount of interceptions to the most. Number one is Kenny Pickett with only 4 picks. Again, his attempts were only 324. That would be, I don't even know. I mean, you look at some of these other attempts here, 560 on this screen right here, 656 for Dak. So, right at about half, right? A little bit more than half than Dak had as far as attempts. But nonetheless, interceptions 4. CJ Stroud, only 5 interceptions, man. 23 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. That is wild. Next is Kirk Cousins with 5 interceptions. Next is Joe Burrow with 6 interceptions. And then you got 4 quarterbacks in Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Aiden O'Connell, and Zach Wilson with 7 interceptions. Then Russell Wilson with 8, Derek Carr with 8, Dak Prescott with 9, Geno Smith with 9, Justin Fields with 9, Gardner Minshew with 9. And then you'll see on down the list here in the 18 spot was Jordan Love with 11 interceptions. That's something you can improve on. You need to put a mark next to that, right? So
is it fair to say, though, Clayton, that you put an asterisk next to that? Because if I'm not mistaken, in the back half, the dude had two.
Oh, no, absolutely, man. And that's why it's again, I don't want to cherry pick stats too much, whether it's for our argument or against our argument. That's why, to me, the whole season matters. And that's why we're in this dilemma, right? With the contract is like, that dude played like he should be the highest paid quarterback in the league in the second half of the season. The problem is the first half of the season, he didn't look like a starting quarterback, right? You see little glimpses. You'd see a wow throw every now and then, but for the most part, it was like, So that's where, again, I'm not trying to dog Goody. I give him a little bit of grace. Like, I understand that whole, hey, we can't throw the bag at him right yet. So just a tough situation. But nonetheless, if you go interceptions there, the number for 10th would be 8 to 9. So we're going to put 8 down. Okay. So, and again, this is, some people will go, oh no, if he only had 10 interceptions, that's still a good year. I agree. But if we're going to go off the true number of 10th, top 10 quarterback at each of these statistical categories, that's how we got to do it. Now let's go to yards, because that's one I skipped over earlier. So when it comes to passing yards, number 1 in the league was Tua Tagovailoa at 4,624 yards. Jared Goff at 4,575. Dak Prescott, 4,516. Josh Allen, 4,306. Brock Purdy, 4,280, which, by the way, Brock Purdy, 31 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. There's no one who hates the 49ers more than me. That dude balled out, man. Patrick Mahomes, 4,183 yards. Then Jordan Love in the number 7 spot, 4,159 yards. CJ Stroud, 4,108. And then Baker Mayfield, 4,044. And then in 10th place is Trevor Lawrence with 4,016. So the number we're going to put down is 4,016 yards as that set number. All right. So that's how that sits. Now let's run over to rates real quick. And
again, sorry. Can I just comment a couple things there?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Look at Patrick Mahomes' air yards compared to other quarterbacks around that stature. The dude is just dumping off like that. Right? That's what that means. I mean, he just does not seem like, and again, another guy, Sam Howell, is not getting enough credit. I mean, I know he's playing from behind probably, and he's, just kind of chucking that thing all over the place, but he's showing up as a top 12 quarterback in a lot of these statistical gradings, which is crazy.
I'm trying to remember where Sam Howell went. I'm going to look right now.
He went to Seattle.
Yeah, so there you
he's
go.
Behind Geno.
And he's young, bro. He's so young. So if Geno, in 2 years he's gone, Sam Howell shows, hey, he could be the future of Seattle. They may have their quarterback there. Sam Howell is nothing to shake a stick at, man. The fact that he is still a breathing human being after after surviving that Washington Commanders experience says a lot about that dude. No doubt about that. But yeah, the air yardage is wild. Let's look at that real quick. We're not going to include it in this exercise, but let's look at it. Dak Prescott, number 1, Tua Tagovailoa, number 2, Jared Goff, number 3, CJ Stroud, 4, Josh Allen, 5, Brock Purdy, 6, and then Jordan Love at 7th. So my man was airing it out. So we got a bunch of numbers there. Is there anything else you want me to sort on this screen here? Because we're going to jump over to rates next, like percentages.
Just real quick, it'd be to see how many sacks and pressures he got compared to the other guys.
This is going to blow some people's mind. You want to go the most sacks or the least amount?
Let's go least.
All right, least. So these are the quarterbacks that were protected the best. Well, pressures is probably going to give you a more accurate, but here's sacks wise. The least sacked quarterback in the league was Kirk Cousins at 17, Mac Jones at 22, Kenny Pickett 23, Josh Allen 24, Aiden O'Connell 24, Joe Burrow 24, then Patrick Mahomes with 27, Brock Purdy 28, Tua Tagovailoa at 29, Justin Herbert at 29, Jared Goff at 30, then Jordan Love at 30. So he was
man, you can push that. You can push Jordan Love well up half over that list if you look at the amount of games the other guys played compared to Jordan. He played 17. Kirk Cousins played 8. Mac Jones 11, 12, 11, 10, 16, 16. Yeah.
And that's where I don't know if they'll have pressure percentage for quarterbacks. If they do on this next screen, that'll tell the tape, right? That'll show you, because I know this. He was in the top 10 all year. When he was playing really bad, there were many people calling into Packernet After Dark going, yeah, but this offensive line's playing like crap. And Ryan told him over and over, like, bro, because me and Ryan were talking offline together, like, what are they talking about? Like, this dude, he's been pressured like the third least amount in the entire league. Like at that time, it was crazy how low the number was. But when we go to pressures here, let's see where Jordan Love ended the league or ended the year. He finished 14th with 194 pressures. So what's crazy is the offensive line pass blocking wise gave up a higher pressure percentage in the second half of the season. And that's when Jordan Love played the best. Guys, that is an important thing. That tells you what he does when the S word hits the fan. That would have been really, really bad. I'd been editing or not. But that says a lot about a quarterback, that when the pressure gets amped up, he plays better. That's Michael Jordan type stuff. That's all right. When the game's on the line, think play or not play. That's a good sign. It really is. Now, if we go to most pressures, I just want to have a little fun with this real quick. Most pressures. Look, Sam Howell.
Wow.
274 pressures. And again, Jordan Love finished 16th at 194. I mean, that is just crazy, man.
Dude.
Absolutely crazy. And look at Patrick Mahomes, too, right? He was getting chased around. Jalen Hurts' offensive line started to crumble.
I think Sam Howell might end up being a good quarterback in this league, dude.
I do too, man. I do. I'm telling you, the fact that he made it out without, have the file for some kind of disability is absolutely huge. It is. So, anything else on this screen you want to look at before we move on to rate?
Another one there is Bryce Young. People are writing him off right away, but the guy had pressure constantly in his little tiny face. You got to give that man some help.
It's true, man. It's so true. And again, I think Bryce Young is going to be fine if he doesn't turn into David Carr, which was Derek Carr's older brother, who was the top. I think he was the number 1 pick in the draft that year for the expansion.
Giants?
The Houston Texans.
Oh, that's right.
And they had the worst offensive line for the 4 years he was with them. And he just got the absolute hell beat out of him the whole time. And he just hung it up. All right, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. The same thing that happened with Tim Couch in Cleveland. He just got annihilated.
Yeah.
He being a Kentucky fan, I remember thinking he doesn't stand a chance. Listen, that old Kentucky boy isn't as good as most of these quarterbacks in the league. He definitely doesn't stand a chance behind that Cleveland line. I remember thinking that constantly. So, all right, let's move on. We're kind of behind time. So I want to get to the rates and then give kind of the final verdict here, Jacob. Let me pop this up real quick. I think I've got the right one. This should be rates here. Yeah, here we go. Okay. And again, I apologize that it's kind of hard to read, but I'm going to give you guys the information. So another key statistic, in my opinion, is on target percentage. Okay, I like on target percentage simply because that shows how accurate a quarterback is. Right, that's okay. And some people go, "Well, I like catchable." There's nothing wrong with sorting by catchable. That means the ball was catchable. But on target means it was thrown exactly where it needed to be thrown. You can go to completion percentage, and the completion percentage be lower. And this got to be a pretty heated discussion. Aaron Rodgers' last year with the Packers, because they were like, "Oh, he's washed up. He's done." His completion percentage was the same as his career completion percentage average until he broke his thumb. And then once they came back after the bye, it cranked up 2% more closer to his career completion percentage, right? So it's like, okay, well, why was it down so low? He broke the thumb. But on top of that, when I was watching the tape, I didn't find myself going, dang, Aaron's inaccurate. I found myself going, they're dropping passes. And lo and behold, the receivers, the Packers' young receivers that year, led the league in drops. So it's like if you remove those drops and actually talked about the true accuracy, you'll notice he skyrockets up the list. Well, that's why I'm all about on target percentage. Okay, so let's look at on target percentage amongst the entire league. Let me go completion percentage real quick because I may have. No, yeah, I think we're good. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I went on target percentage. Do you understand what on target percentage is, Jacob? Did I explain that well?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Cool.
Basically, you're hitting the strike zone, right?
What's that?
I said basically you're hitting the strike zone.
Yes, absolutely. You're hitting them in stride. If it's a curl, you're hitting them between the numbers. If it's and it doesn't even have to be absolutely perfect, but it's a much tighter window than the catchable percentage, if that makes sense. So on target percentage, number 1 was Dak Prescott at 79%. Number 2, Patrick Mahomes at 77.8. Number 3, Derek Carr at 77.7. 4 was Joe Burrow at 77.5. 5 was Josh Allen at 77.1. 6 was Russell Wilson at 77.1. 7th was Justin Herbert at 76.6. Then Kirk Cousins at 75.9. Jalen Hurts 75.5. Everybody was all over Jalen Hurts like he was just playing like absolute booty cheeks last year. You've seen the high pressure rate, and you're seeing he's on target. Well, what happened? Kind of tells the whole story. That's why I love this statistic here. Geno Smith 75.5. Brock Purdy 75.1. Jared Goff, 74.4. Josh Dobbs, 74.2. Tua Tagovailoa at 73.8. Trevor Lawrence, 73.8. You're starting to see it, ain't you, Jacob? Kenny Pickett, 73.7. Mac Jones, 73.5. Jordan Love, 73.2%. He was 18th in the league, okay? So, again, in order to get him to where we want him to be, an on-target percentage, okay, we would want him to be at 75.5%, which is what Geno Smith had. That would put him 10th in the league. So in order to kind of justify, in my opinion, these are statistics that I find important. It isn't everything. The tape is way more important than any amount of numbers you can put on a spreadsheet. But we would want to see him to be able to finish in that top 10 if we're going to pay him top quarterback money, if that makes sense. So that's how that lands there. Now, when it comes to completion percentage, I'm trying to think if I had that right. So he was at 64.2%. So I had actually got that percentage wrong there. So we'll just scratch that out and we'll go that was right. 10th was 60. Let me do this real quick because I want to finish up this. Yeah, that was right. 66.5. So we'll call it 66% is the percentage. So on target percentage, again, that 10th spot, Jacob, is 75.5% is where we want Jordan Love at. Now, if we go to completion percentage, real quick, Dak Prescott, number 1 at 69%. Now you know why Dak's going, hey, I need a new contract, boys. It's about time. Like he led in every statistical category. And people, the whole narrative that, well, he can't win in the big game, that drives me crazy because it's a team sport. You can't in one breath say wins aren't a quarterback stat and then judge someone off of their wins in the playoffs. You know what I mean? It just kind of, I don't know, it irks me a little bit. But Dak Prescott at 69.5, Kirk Cousins 69.5. The Vikings are going to miss him, Jacob. They're going to miss Kirk Cousins, dude. Brock Purdy 69.4, Tua Tagovailoa 69.3, Derek Carr 68, Jared Goff 67, Pat Mahomes 67, Lamar Jackson 67, Joe Burrow 66, Josh Allen 66, Russell Wilson 66, Trevor Lawrence 65, Jalen Hurts 65, Justin Herbert 65, Mac Jones 64, Geno Smith 64, Baker Mayfield 64, Jordan Love 64.2%. He comes in 18th in completion percentage. Does any of that catch you by surprise? Because we seen, man, he was in the 50s. Completion percentage was in the high 50s in that first half of the season, if you'll remember us talking about that.
Yeah, again, I mean, I hate to sound like a broken record, but if you were to just dwell down onto 8 weeks and specifically the back 9, right, of his career, he'd be top 2 in every single category here, which is honestly more amazing that he scores as high as he does with some of these, because it was night and day. If you could scroll just a little bit up, again, one thing I want to highlight here is this is the first time, well, no, we don't even see it. So Trevor Lawrence, who just got paid a king's ransom, has not cracked top 10 in any of these. And
right.
Again, you look up here, you see the likes. Can you scroll just a tidbit more up there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Here you see guys like Derek Carr at 5. You see Russell Wilson at 11. I mean, like you talked about, these guys got absolutely hammered to the part where one of them got traded. The other one was talked about how they were, guys like Jameis Winston should be taking over for him, or what's the tight end they have that's taking snaps. It's like, no, dude, these guys are good quarterbacks. You put a crap franchise in front of them and ask them to make a mountain out of a molehill, or I guess maybe like gold out of goose poop. And I just think that Jordan Love, if you were to take, I mean, you can't take out the first half. I understand that. But if you were to just kind of look at what he progressed to when the team, again, you have to take all this stuff with the fact, like, did these teams have the youngest team in the NFL? No, Jordan Love did. And he was able to somehow herd all those cats into making it into one of the most potent top 3, top 5 offenses in the back half of that season. So again, the numbers are numbers. It's hard to argue with statistics, but there has to be a grain of salt taken with some of these. Like, you can pick and point where that is. And I know it sounds like a homer take to be like, no, Jordan Love should be way higher on these lists, but Jordan Love should be way higher on these lists. It's just a fact if you were to look at where he progressed to at the end of the season.
Definitely. And since you mentioned Derek Carr being 5th in the league at 68.4%, I just want to see something real quick. So he's 5th in the league in completion percentage, and on target percentage, where's he at? He climbed to 3rd. So he was 3rd in on target percentage. Derek Carr, man, he was actually a fairly accurate quarterback last year. There's no doubt about that. So let's move on to the final statistic I wanted to look at, and then we'll kind of get a grand total here. Let's go to passer rating. Okay. So here's the passer rating score for every quarterback in the league for the entire season. Brock Purdy, number 1 at 113. Dak Prescott, number 2 at 105.9. Kirk Cousins, number 3 at 103.8. Lamar Jackson, number 4 at 102.7. Tua Tagovailoa, number 5 at 101.1. CJ Stroud, number 6 at 100.8. Russell Wilson, number 7 at 98.0. Number 8, Jared Goff at 97.9. Number 9, Derek Carr at 97.7. And then number 10 was Jordan Love, 96.1. So he finished the season, even though he had that really, really rough first half of the season, he still finished top 10 in passer rating. Okay, so now what we've done, well, first of all, anything else you want to see on this screen right here, Jacob, as we get ready to move on here? There's the pressure percentage. We can look at that real quick, right?
Just right before you do that, it's just, again, to look at when you look at quarterback rating, which some people, say that that's one of their biggest things they look at. Behind Jordan Love was the likes of Mahomes, Herbert, and other, quote unquote franchise quarterbacks. It's like, dude, you got to give this guy some respect.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. You're talking about rating, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Again, Jordan Love 10th, and then it's Baker Mayfield, Justin Herbert,
Stafford,
Mahomes, Matt Stafford, Josh
Allen.
Yeah. Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence was 19th.
That's crazy.
Woo! All right. So there is your passer rating. Now, we talked about pressure percentage earlier. You guys remember what we said about Love, right? Love was, when we sorted by sacks, he was the 12th least sacked quarterback in the league, if that makes sense. Okay, he got sacked 30 times. That was tied for 11th least. Okay, the lower number, the better, obviously. So the lower number, the higher the ranking. Now, when you look at the pressure percentage, he climbs to third at only 30.8% of the time. So what does that tell? These are where statistics come in real handy. If he was only pressured 30.8% of the time, okay, and that was third best in the league as far as, lack of pressures, and he was sacked, again, that number was 12th least in the league. So he dropped from pressure percentage, he dropped from 3 down to 12 as far as sacks. That tells you he was taking sacks he shouldn't have been taking. That's another thing you can work on. So what have we seen so far? Accuracy and getting rid of the football. What did we say all first half of the season when we were watching the tape and we were doing Chalk Talk? He's not playing on schedule, he's not playing on time, and he's inaccurate. And he seemed to fix those two things at the end of the year. So now you got to blow the whistle, say timeout. Of those two metrics, of those two statistics, if you will, can he fit? Do we think that's fixed? Is his accuracy fixed? We had a 9-game saturation where it looked like it was fixed. I feel comfortable saying, yeah, that's probably fixed. As far as pressure percentage or sacks, in the second half of the season, we didn't pull those numbers, whatever. But when we watched the tape, what you did notice was he was now playing on time. I have a hard time believing he's just going to go back to not playing on schedule. So of those two key statistics, those were probably the things he struggled the most with in the first half of the season. I feel comfortable going, I think he fixed those. Does that make sense, Jacob?
Well, it makes total sense. And it also, to me, this specific stat right here, the pressure percentage means that Rasheed Walker needs another shot at this, man. I watched actually 2 highlight blips today. I can't remember if I sent them over to you or not, but it was in the San Francisco game, obviously, the one that broke all of our hearts. And it was specifically showing Rasheed Walker absolutely stuffing Bosa for most of that game. From rep to rep, that guy, they were doing stunts. They were doing, a lot of blitzes off the edge. It did not phase Walker. He was absolutely tried and true. He looked amazing. And then on the opposite side, they showed Savage dropping a in his chest interception that would have been returned probably for at least putting us into a scoring position. And it just made my heart sink to the point where it was like, man, statistics do tell a story, but when you watch it on film, it's like, oh, okay, that's where we lost the game there. Or that's why we, had a hole in our offense/defense. And so to me, that is more encouraging than I even thought, because one of the only things I was kind of iffy, or one of the only things I am iffy about going into this year, is if that offensive line is going to gel together and give Love some protection. But I can't be told that our offensive line is going to be worse than it was last year. Now, if we can just slightly improve this year, I think the sky is the limit for Jordan Love in this offense.
And if I remember correctly, it was the Pittsburgh game was the first game that I recognized Jordan Love was actually beginning to call out the protections. So I think that's important to note that, all right, he started the season, he wasn't calling out the protections, and he kind of evolved into that role. And that's a great sign that, okay, moving forward, he's going to be the one setting the protection. Meaning the center will go out, Josh Myers will go out and he'll set the protection. And then Jordan has the veto power. He can override that and change the protection. Or if he wants to change the play, like we've seen, give you a good example, go back and watch the Dallas game, the touchdown pass to Tay Wicks. That was Jordan coming to the line, check, telling the tight end to stay in safe, resetting the protection, re-IDing the mic, calling a couple of hots, changing the play up and attacking the weak spot of the defense. That was the prime. That was like vintage. I don't say vintage. That was peak Jordan Love last year of doing what a starting quarterback's supposed to do. And he was doing it in the next to last game of the season. That's a great sign. That means he was, you just got to continue to build off of it, obviously. So the whole purpose of doing that exercise was I wanted to set kind of a floor for, okay, if we're willing to give Jordan Love top quarterback money, and again, people say, like I heard Wildy and Tausch and someone else talking about this. I think Homer was talking about it too, Steve the Homer Shrew. And they were talking about, are people getting their hopes too high for Jordan Love? Are they setting unrealistic expectations? Like he's just going to go out there this year and play at an MVP level. So what I want to do is take an opposite approach and go, okay, what's the lowest we would accept and go, okay, that justifies top 10 quarterback money. Does that make sense? So that's that's what I wanted to do. Here are the numbers. This is what it would look like. 364 completions on 548 attempts. Again, these are all the 10th place numbers in each of these respective statistical categories. 364 completions off 548 attempts, a completion percentage of 66%, 25 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, on target percentage of 75.5%, a passer rating of 96.1, and 4,016 yards passing. That justifies a top-tier quarterback, top 10 quarterback, which I don't care if they're 10th or 8th. If you're in that top 10, as we've seen with Trevor Lawrence, you deserve to be able to reset the market. That's the reality. I'm not saying that's how I agree with that whole, stance. I'm simply saying the market doesn't give a crap about our feelings as fans. Just like I've said 1,000 times, if you're selling a house, it doesn't make a hill of beans what you think that house is worth. It's what is someone else willing to pay. That's what sets the market. It's that simple. So if you're not willing to pay him money for hitting those statistical levels that we just laid out, then you might as well move on and go find another quarterback, because those are legit top 10 quarterback numbers. And I'm telling you, man, 25 touchdowns and 8 interceptions, that seems like a pretty low floor for Jordan Love. I'm excited, Jacob. So give that man his money. That's what I'm saying. Give him his money. And try to get it as incentive-based as possible. And I know it's going to be tough with Mulugeta, but it's going to be worth it in the end because, again, that dude deserves the money. He does. So with that being said, I deserve to keep my marriage intact, and we're expecting to have some festivities here this evening, so I've got to go. Jacob, any parting thoughts at all, brother, man? Anything at all?
No, man. I mean, it's just like you said. We're all sitting here kind of tiptoeing around the fact, is Jordan Love the guy? Is Jordan Love the guy? Like the other organizations, and again, I know that that's what's made us different, is that we are a little bit stingy with our pocketbook. But you look at where the guys that just got paid, that are going to get paid, Tua, Dak, Trevor, they're getting crazy money. And we looked at those stats. The only one that's even holds a candle to Jordan is Dak for sure. But as far as like the Tua and Trevor situation, I would argue that if you're just going off performance, especially what you can do for me lately, I would say Jordan Love is going to break the bank. Now, I'd be still happy if they give him a 55 per, I'd be fine. Even if they stretch it out to something in there, they had some incentives like you talked about, I'm cool with it. To be honest, I'm cool if they throw the book at him. I really don't care at this point. Get the guy hammered down, get him locked into a contract. We've been hearing in the offseason that the guy is just doing nothing but like surpassing the expectations, like actually to the point where Rashawn Gary and other guys are like, you haven't seen what he's doing. Like, it's insane. And to me, what we just talked about is the fact that he was a little bit inaccurate at the beginning of the year. He was a little bit kind of maybe throwing balls he shouldn't be throwing. He was a little bit kind of haphazard with certain things, taking sacks maybe when he didn't need to. Well, guess what's going to clear that up? Practice time, working with your team, and just a year of progression. And I think that's what's going to happen. Pay the man, give him his money. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree, man. All right. So with that being said, listen, the longer you wait to pay him, the more the price goes up. We could have got Jerry Dobbs' contract, and we didn't because we waited. It's only going to get worse. Every time another quarterback gets a contract, and there's 2 more that are out there looking to get a contract right now, Tua and Dak. There may be more, I'm sure. But every time you wait, it's like saying, you know what? I'm just going to make the minimum payment on this credit card this month, and we'll wait till next month. Yeah. That's just going to tack right on. That's exactly what's happening. So now you can franchise him for 2 years, yes, but you're risking pissing him off, pissing the locker room off, and that dude may say, you know what? I'm done. I don't need football. But he can do that too. And just how, it would be an absolute waste. So I'm not saying he would do that. I'm not saying the Packers would franchise him 2 years in a row. I'm simply saying there are some people that are numbers guys that are going, well, we can franchise him 2 years in a row. Good luck with that, buddy. Tell me the last time that worked out for a team, because the last team to do it was the Commanders doing it to Kirk Cousins. How did that work out for their organization? You want to know why they got such a piss-poor culture? It's because that's how they treat the leaders of their team, right? And the same thing kind of with Minnesota to a certain extent. They just gave him like a 1 year. It was more or less, I think they franchised
They gave him like 3 1-year deals the whole time he was there.
Yep. And again, did that get him over the hump? No. Something special happens when you get behind. That's the other thing, too. Goody has already been very, 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 I'm going to say it one more time, very vocal. Remember when they asked him early in the year, when did you know Jordan was the guy? He said, when we took him in 2019 or 2020, whenever it was. It's like, I guarantee you Mulugeta's going in there, hey, you remember on this day when you knew? Yeah.
Remember when you shipped away your franchise Hall of Fame 4-time MVP quarterback and you thought,
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to get out of here. Listen, I want to say this as we depart here, and I go save my marriage. Remember what this day is about. This was a day where only a third of our country, a third of the colonies, I should say, it wasn't a country at the time, only a third was on board with the mission at hand. 2/3 of everyone's neighbor that was involved with the breaking away from England were on the king's side, or they were at least like, I don't want no part of this. It took a minority stepping up and doing the right thing because they knew it was going to be not what was right for them. They were going to catch absolute hell for doing what they were doing. But they knew it's what their grandchildren needed. They knew it's what their great-grandchildren needed. They knew now was the time to do what was right. In today's society, it's hard to do that. So don't be afraid to stand up and say, hey, look, here's what I believe, right? Don't be silenced in that regard. Speak your mind, do it in a respectful way. And it's the least we can do for those who, gave their lives, for our freedom. And that, to me, that's what I think of when I hear the 4th of July. I think of a ragtag bunch of rebels that went out and faced the strongest military on the face of the planet. Mm-hmm. And they did it in the name of, we want to be able to worship what God we want to worship. And we want to be able to, we don't want someone controlling our taxes from all the way halfway across the world. We want true freedom. That's what it was about. I'm about to bury a soldier on Monday. I'm burying my brother on Monday. And we're having a full military service for him here at the local VA. And he's going to be put alongside his fellow soldiers. Those are the people I'm thinking about on the 4th of July. Yes, it's awesome to have a daddy soda and enjoy the fireworks and try not to lose a finger and eat good food and spend time with friends and family. But let's just remember what it's truly about, right? This quote right here, Nathan Hale, he was a spy for the colonies that got captured and hung. And they asked him, do you have any final words? And his final words were, I only regret that I have but one life to lose for my country. Now, listen, what we do on a daily basis has nothing to do with life and death. But I'll tell you this, when we think that our voice doesn't matter and we think as a people we're so divided, the only reason we're divided is because we're allowing people to divide us. And there were men and women that gave their lives so we could have the freedom we've got. Let's just don't lose sight of that. And this is my favorite founding father quote. And this is by, again, John Adams, one of my favorite founding fathers. He says, there's nothing which I dread so much as the division of the republic into two great parties, each arranged under its leader and concerting measures in opposition to each other. This, in my humble apprehension, is to be dreaded as the greatest political evil under our Constitution. Let me paraphrase that for you. Stop letting these stupid ass parties divide us as people. Come together as people, as neighbors, turn off the news and go knock on your neighbor's door and go, how can I make your life better? And if they're not willing to do the same for you, they're not a good neighbor. You turn the other cheek and you go help someone in your community that needs help. Because there's people everywhere that are hurting and they think that the person living right next to them is their enemy. And the reason they think that is because the news tells them that. Because their two political parties tell them that. And what are the two political parties? All they are is a bunch of rich people who have done nothing but get rich off of our hard-earned dollars, our tax dollars. And in the meantime, they're keeping us divided as close to 50% as possible. That's where they're the strongest. And that's all I'll say. That's what the 4th of July is to me. Be a Nathaniel Hale. In a world full of people who just fall in line and tote their party lines, whether you're Republican or Democrat, be a Nathaniel Hale and step up for what's right. That's all I got. So appreciate y'all's friendship. Everybody have a happy 4th. Stay safe out there. Listen, no drinking and driving. It only takes a second to call an Uber, and it ain't that expensive. Trust me. All right. So y'all be safe. Jake, appreciate your time, buddy. We will see y'all tomorrow for PTA Live. Everybody have a wonderful evening. For those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. Hope you enjoyed your time off. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. And go Pack Go.
America.